In this video, we're going to solve a linear inequality by graphing. To do that, the first thing we do is pretend that the given inequality is an equation and ask yourself, how would you normally graph it? So if I had negative 4x plus 4y equals 12, so again, thinking of it like an equal sign, I would probably think to do it by intercepts. That's where I substitute in a 0 for the x and solve for y, and vice versa. So let's take a look at that. If I replace the the x with a 0, and again, pretending it's an equal sign for a moment, then I can solve for y. Negative 4 times 0 is 0, so that just goes away. And I have 4y is equal to 12, or when I divide by 4, I can see that y equals 3. This means I have the point 0, 3 on my graph, which I can go ahead and plot by counting up 3 from the origin. 1, 2, 3. We can do the same thing with our y. So let's replace the y with 0 and see what happens there. And again, we're going to treat it like an equal sign. 4 times 0 is 0, so that just goes away. So we have negative 4x equals 12. When you divide by negative 4, you get that x is equal to negative 3. That means the point negative 3, 0 is on the graph. So from the center, we count to the left, 3. So that is the same strategy as we have had when we were graphing any equation, but now that it's an inequality, we're going to choose how we connect our dots. If the inequality sign has an or equals to component to it, so the bar underneath the inequality sign, you'll do a solid line. But if it's just greater than or just less than, you do a dotted line. Here, because our inequality is greater than, we're going to use a dotted line to connect our dots. So we connect them, and we do want to extend it further all the way to the edge of the graph. So when you're doing this by hand, make sure you're using a ruler or another straight edge just to make this more accurate. And then we have to decide which side are we going to shade in. So this is where we're going to do a test point. You can pick any point that is not on the line itself. I usually like to pick 0, 0. So as long as 0, 0 is not on the line, so this is my test point, we can use it. So I'm going to label this as test R 0, 0. And we're going to plug it into the inequality. So negative 4 times 0 plus 4 times 0 is greater than 12. Well, this is really 0 plus 0, or 0 is greater than 12, which is false. Because it is a false statement, we cannot shade on the side of 0, 0. So that means we need to shade on the other side. In this case, that means that since 0, 0 is below the line, we're going to shade above the line. We do recommend doing this in pencil just so it's a little bit easier to have shading. It does not have to be particularly artistic, but as long as you have covered the whole area, that should be shaded, at least pretty close to, kind of like ours there. You're in good shape. So this is the graph of our linear inequality.